Okay, and back again. This is later on in paper 130 at Joppa, Discourse on Jonah. This is later on in that same section. And this one is talking about good and evil. And this is how it reads. Jesus' last visit with Gedaliah had to do with the discussion of good and evil. This young Philistine was much troubled by a feeling of injustice because of the presence of evil in the world alongside the good. He said, "How can God, if he is infinitely good, permit us to suffer the sorrows of evil? After all, who creates evil?" It was still believed by many in those days that God creates both good and evil, but Jesus never taught such error. In answering this question, Jesus said, "My brother, God is love. Therefore, he must be good, and his goodness is so great and real that it cannot contain the small and unreal things of evil. God is so positively good that there is absolutely no place in him for negative evil. Evil is the immature choosing and the unthinking misstep of those who are resistant to goodness, rejectful of beauty, and disloyal to truth. Evil is only the misadaptation of immaturity or the disruptive and distorting influence of ignorance. Evil is the inevitable darkness which follows upon the heels of the unwise rejection of light. Evil is that which is dark and untrue, and which, when consciously embraced and willfully endorsed, becomes sin. Your Father in heaven, by endowing you with the power to choose between truth and error, created the potential negative of the positive way of light and life. But such errors of evil are really non-existent until such a time as an intelligent creature wills their existence by mischoosing the way of life. And then are such evils later exalted into sin by the knowing and deliberate choice of such a willful and rebellious creature. This is why our Father in heaven permits the good and the evil to go along together until the end of life, just as nature allows the wheat and the tares to grow side by side until the harvest. Gedaliah was fully satisfied with Jesus' answer to his question after their subsequent discussion had made clear to his mind the real meaning of these momentous statements. So I'm going to go back up to many times have I explained to people that when you vibrate at a high enough level, and the vibration of love is higher than our 3D reality. The vibration of God, I would say, is higher than that yet. A more magnificent version of that loving presence, that loving energy. When we vibrate at that very high level, we are unable to perceive attack. We are unable to perceive what we would call evil. We are unable. And the reason is because we no longer pass judgment on the things that are happening. They are just happening, and we observe them happening without judgment. When that occurs, we no longer see things as good or bad, right or wrong. And so this is absolutely amazing, and this is the first time that I have read this text. This is a very large book, and though I have picked it up several times, just recently was I inspired to begin reading the life of Jesus. when I was called to do this work. And so this God is so positively good that there is absolutely no place in him for negative evil. Now, I have said that all things are happening in God because we are all in God. And then it explains in here that when your Father in heaven, by endowing you with the power to choose between truth and error, created the potential negative of the positive way of life and light, and those errors are considered evil. So that's saying when we were given free will on this planet to mess up or to choose love or to choose fear, okay? He's saying light in this. He's saying to choose light or to reject light, and I'm telling you it's love or fear, because that's how A Course in Miracles explains it, and I think it's very easy. You could say light or dark. You could say life or death, or you could say love or fear, okay? These are kind of the opposites of each other. And so he says, when your Father in heaven gave you the choice, when your Father in heaven gave you the potential to choose the opposite of love or the opposite of light, the things that you deem as evil, then you manifest into the world through your choices, your vision, your perception, your creative powers. There's a little switch inside of each and every one of us that on whatever level, even people who are not very self-aware, when you make choices, you reap what you sow. And even though you might not be willing to face in that moment the choice that you are making and the potential consequences of that choice, the consequences are real, and you will manifest them for yourself. So, and this is why I have been saying over and over and over again how very important it is that we first and foremost are focusing on loving intention, what it is to be love, to be in love, and to give freely from love. Know ourselves as love and live that. Because that is the only way, and I'm hearing to avoid karma. For those of you who know what karma is, that's how you get off the karmic wheel, is you stop creating it. You will not create karma if you are operating from a place of love and a loving intent. And so that's what this is saying is, it's God's not creating the evil in the world. God gave you the choice to choose light or dark. He gave you the choice to choose love or fear. And based on your choice, you manifest the outcome. So reaping what you sow, which is how Christ taught us in the Bible. And all of these things, you can see how similar they are when you take the time to expand your knowledge of texts and literature. But what does that do also? Also, it says that it makes us realize that truth can be found lots of places, and that we should never. One of the things that has been impressed upon me is when we in the Western world, and this was from reading Spirit of the Western Way, penned by Tina Louise Spalding, but when we in the Western world would visit other countries that we deemed were not as well off as we were, or that needed our amenities that they did not have, and we forcibly brought them into the cultures in other areas, that we may have been doing a great detriment to those cultures because we thought our way was better. Do you see the vanity in this? We have to be very careful. We just have to be very careful. And I think Christ would say, if we are willing to listen 300 times more than we talk, we may not fall victim or prey to those temptations to give everyone else the life that we think is best, because it is only what we think, not what we know. So with that, I'm going to leave that here because it was so wonderful and so inspired, and I will be back with more if more presents itself. In peace and love, may you be blessed.